Let me tell you about a day that started with dirt and ended with a reckoning. It was just past 9 on a breezy Saturday morning in Cypress Hollow, California, where the sidewalks are clean, the smiles tight, and the past never quite passed. Sunlight spilled over the houses like someone had poured gold over the rooftops. You could smell jasmine, hear sprinklers clicking, and somewhere in the distance, someone playing Miles Davis on vinyl. But that peace? It didn't last long. Because in the middle of all that suburban stillness, Loretta Crenshaw, a 72-year-old woman with perfect curls, a lavender robe, and enough bitterness to curdle milk, stormed out of her porch like a damn hurricane. She walked straight up to a black SUV parked on the curb, reached into her flower bed, grabbed a fistful of soil, and smeared it across the hood like she was branding livestock. The SUV wasn't just any car. It belonged to Lincoln Big Link Porter, retired Army Master Sergeant, two-time Bronze Star recipient, youth mentor, and the unofficial heart of the neighborhood. But that morning, he was just a black man in a fancy car, parked on the wrong side of a picket fence. Now here's where it got interesting. Link didn't yell, didn't curse, didn't even raise an eyebrow. He stepped out, tall, calm, deliberate, opened the back door, pulled out a folder, and laid it gently on the hood, right next to the dirt. Inside, a property deed, his name, a photo of a young boy from decades past, a silent answer to a very loud insult. He didn't wipe the dirt, didn't even look at it, just turned, walked into the youth center across the street, and disappeared behind the glass doors like he hadn't just been assaulted with soil in front of half the block. Now, let me back up a sec, because you need to know who Lincoln Porter really is. See, Link wasn't always the calm, smiling guy teaching kids how to dribble or fixing up broken bikes at the rec center. There was a time not so long ago when he was stationed in Kandahar, dodging IEDs and pulling wounded teammates out of burning Humvees with his bare hands. He didn't grow up rich. Southside Houston, rough neighborhood, no dad, mama worked 2 shifts just to keep the lights on. He learned early that silence wasn't weakness, it was survival. In the Army, he carried more than just gear. He carried stories. His unit called him the Walking Vault. He never talked about the worst missions. But folks who've seen what he's seen, they don't need to shout to command a room. The Army molded him. Discipline, honor, restraint. There were nights in Afghanistan when he didn't sleep for 3 days, buried in mud, listening for footsteps in the dark. That kind of training, it doesn't just sharpen your reflexes, it shapes your soul. And after he retired, he didn't choose to live in Cypress Hollow for the view or the reputation. He chose it for redemption. Link bought a fixer-upper across from the old Civic Center, turned it into a youth sanctuary. Basketball on Wednesdays, hot meals on Sundays, mentorship every single afternoon, no camera crews, no speeches, just work. Quiet, steady, relentless. But progress? It doesn't always look like hope to everyone. Loretta Crenshaw had lived in Cypress Hollow since the 60s. She saw change, all right. Saw it like a cancer. She'd once hosted garden parties in that yard. Now, she saw murals where there were once hedges, black and brown kids on her sidewalk, rap music instead of opera. And Link? To her, he wasn't a neighbor. He was an invasion. But dirt on a car? That wasn't just petty. That was a line crossed, and it didn't go unnoticed. By noon, 3 separate neighbors had uploaded phone footage. One video hit 500,000 views by dinner. Hashtags popped up like mushrooms after rain, #dirt and dignity, #biglink, #cypress stain. Local news ran the clip on loop. Commentators called it a modern-day Rosa Parks moment. National networks picked it up by Sunday. And then, the town exploded. The mayor released a statement. "We condemn all acts of racial provocation." Police Chief Maritza del Toro said an internal inquiry would take place. Not that anyone knew what that meant. But the real fire? It spread online. Some said Loretta should be charged with a hate crime. Others defended her. She's old, they argued. She's grieving. Her son died young. Then came the press. Cameras on lawns, satellite vans. One anchor even tried to shove a mic in Link's face during Saturday breakfast at Daisy's Diner. He just shook his head and left his eggs untouched. But things got darker. Someone vandalized the youth center, spray-painted "Go Home" across the back fence. An anonymous letter arrived, "Stop stirring trouble or face consequences." And then came the decision. Link was summoned to a closed-door city hearing. Invited, not subpoenaed, but the pressure was real. Lawyers, community leaders. A police spokesperson named Harris tried to explain it all away as a moment of poor judgment by a distressed individual. The room was split. Some wanted forgiveness. Others wanted accountability. And Link? He sat silent, hands folded, eyes clear, like he was staring down a sniper scope again. But it was the sheriff who surprised everyone. Deputy Sean Riggs, veteran, white, small-town guy, stood up and said, "Y'all can debate statutes all day long, but I saw the tape, and I saw a man treated like property. That ain't Cypress Hollow, or at least it better not be." That day, Riggs became a target. The next morning, someone slashed his tires. His teenage daughter got followed home from school. His wife pulled out of the PTA. Meanwhile, Link faced his own storm. He couldn't walk 2 blocks without being asked for a quote. His DMs flooded. Some messages were love letters, others were threats. He was praised in podcasts, dissected in think pieces, and shadowed by strangers. A viral moment had made him a symbol, and symbols don't get to breathe. But through it all, he never raised his voice, never wrote a tweet, never even responded to the media frenzy. He kept showing up, Monday mentorships, Friday cleanups, like nothing had changed, except everything had. One night, a little girl named Mia, maybe 9, came up to him and asked, "Mr. Link, why didn't you yell at her?" And Link just knelt down, smiled, and said, "'Cause sometimes silence shakes more walls than shouting ever could." But behind closed doors, he wrestled, because the town wanted him to choose, to forgive, publicly, or to file charges and let the justice system handle it. 2 roads, one path of healing, the other of accountability. He sat in the youth center one night, staring at the deed on his desk, the folder still stained faintly with Loretta's soil. And he thought about Afghanistan, about a mission gone wrong in 2009, about a young recruit who ignored orders and paid the price. Link had buried that kid himself. Forgiveness? It was a luxury he hadn't always had. But he also remembered the elders from his old block, how they taught him that justice without compassion was just another form of power. So he made his decision. He walked to Loretta's porch the next morning. This time, she was waiting. No words. Just a photo frame in her hands. The same black and white photo Link had uncovered of her with Jeremiah Morgan, the forgotten boy who vanished in 1973. She held it like a relic. Her eyes, wet but clear, met his, and for the first time she spoke. "I didn't just throw dirt on your car. I threw it at myself." Link didn't answer. He just took the frame, turned, and hung it on the gate of the youth center, right next to the new mural the kids had painted. 2 figures under a tree, one tall and dark-skinned, the other small and smiling. Words painted beneath. Gone isn't the same as forgotten. But the story didn't end there. The mural was vandalized a week later. Threats escalated. Local debate turned into national discourse. Commentators called it Dirtgate. Civil rights attorneys offered pro bono support. Loretta was subpoenaed for a follow-up investigation into Jeremiah's disappearance. Suddenly, what began as a smear on metal had become a search for buried truths. And then, twist. One of Loretta's old neighbors, Miss Jeanine, 89 and barely mobile, called the paper and said she remembered a boy named Jeremiah, and a night long ago when he ran from the Crenshaw house bleeding. Investigation reopened. FBI flagged the property. Cadaver dogs dispatched. The past was no longer a memory. It was evidence. And Link? He stayed quiet, but resolute. Even when the center was threatened, even when the mayor's office asked him to let things cool down, he kept showing up. And one spring morning, tulips blooming, kids laughing, street calm, Loretta walked across the road. No robe, no dirt, just gloves and a watering can. She knelt by the mural, pressed her hand into the soil, then turned and walked away. Didn't speak, didn't cry. But behind the youth center's window, Link saw her. He didn't smile, didn't wave, just nodded, because some forgiveness doesn't need words. The SUV? It was clean now, not because he washed it, because a boy named Dorian, 12, proud, determined, had stayed after cleanup one day, quietly polished every inch of the hood, then whispered, "No one can stain you if you don't let them." And Link? He just stood back, and let that truth settle. Now I gotta ask you, what would you have done? Would you press charges? Would you forgive? Is silence always strength or sometimes surrender? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about justice, memory, and the dirt we've all thrown or carried.